Hola a todos, bienvenidos a otro video de Español con Señor Aiden. Hoy vamos a hablar de los artículos definitivos y indefinitivos. Today we're going to talk about the definite and indefinite articles. If you never heard of those before, I go over them in English too, so empezaremos. Una introducción. In Spanish, every word has a gender. Not just in Spanish, but in most languages, everything has a gender. This is very different from English. English does not have a gender for every word. We usually only use genders with people. So it's a little different. It takes a little time to get used to, but once you get used to it, you'll be all set. There are 4 definite articles, and there are also 4 indefinite articles, and we'll learn each and every one of them. And you can recognize what word is what gender by the ending. You'll see what I mean soon enough. Vamos a empezar con los artículos definitivos. We're going to start with the definite articles. The first one is el, which is the masculine singular form. Singular means one, and masculine is the gender. As I said, you'll understand what that means soon enough. Just hang in there. Los is the masculine plural form. Plural means many. La is the feminine singular, and then las are the feminine plural. So let's take a look in a moment at some examples, but first let's go over some notes. Every definite article means the in English. Okay, so each and every one of these means either the or the, however you want to say it. Every word has a definite article, both in Spanish and in English. So if you look at a dictionary, English or Spanish dictionary, or just any dictionary, if you look up a word, it'll always tell you the definite article with it. All right. You should almost always include the definite article when deemed necessary. Depending on the scenario, you figure that out yourself. There are times when you can admit it, but it's something that English speakers do that we tend to become lazy on. And it's best in Spanish not to do that, to be formal. There are, I said, occasions where this can be okay, though. Los artículos definitivos, so some examples of definite articles. La pluma, the pen. Los bolígrafos, the pens. La pluma and el bolígrafo, they are both words for pen. Both could work. You'll also find in Spanish that there can be 2 or 3 different types of words for one thing. La policía, the police. El mono, the monkey. El piano, the piano. Las bananas, the bananas. El plátano, the plantain. You can also say that's also a banana if you want to. Once again, another one of those examples where la banana and el plátano can both work. La almohada, the pillow. Las lámparas, the lamps. El armario, the closet. La ropa, the clothes. Take a note that is the singular form. In Spanish, clothing is singular and not plural. There is no plural form of the word for clothing. El libro, the book. Now we're going to take a look at los artículos indefinitivos, the indefinite articles. These are the following. Un, which is the masculine singular form. Unos, which is the masculine plural form. Una, which is the feminine singular form. And then unas, which is the feminine plural form. A few notes about the indefinite articles. The indefinite articles can mean a or some in English. For the most part, it just means a. But when you have the plural form, many times you want to switch to some. So a marker, some markers. A pen, some pens. Every word has an indefinite article, both in Spanish and English, just like they're definite articles. A dictionary will not tell you the indefinite articles, they will tell you the definite articles. But you can always figure that out once you figure out the gender of the word. Just use this chart right here. Once again, like the definite articles, you should almost always include the indefinite article when deemed necessary. Once again, I said before, there are occasions when you can omit it, but formally you shouldn't. If you shouldn't. Some examples of indefinite articles. Algunos ejemplos de los artículos indefinitivos. Una pluma, a pen, un bolígrafo, also a pen. Unas policías. This can be like some policemen, some police. Sounds a little weird, but it can work. Un mono, a monkey. Unos pianos, some pianos. Una banana, a banana. Un plátano, a plantain or a banana. Unas almohadas, some pillows. Una lámpara, a lamp. Un armario, a closet. Una bolsa is a purse, Y unos libros, some books. Now, did you catch a pattern? I mentioned before that you can tell the gender of the word by the end of the word. You can tell the gender of a word by looking at the end. If you look back here for a moment, I highlighted un, and if you look at the end, I said un plátano, for example. I put un, I highlighted un, I highlighted the o at the end. If you look at una lámpara, I highlighted the una part, and I ended the a at the end of lámpara to indicate a pattern. So I bolded similarities. For the most part, when a word ends with o, it is a masculine word. When a word ends with an a, it is a feminine word. Think about that for a moment. Take a look back here. Does this make sense? This is the masculine form? Yeah. Un, o. Una lámpara. Una, a. Let's take a look at this. So now that you know the rules and how you can distinguish the gender of words, we're going to take a look and I want you to practice. I'm going to show you just a definite article for right now, and you're going to tell me if it's el or la. Blank carro. Blank carro. Take a moment. If you got el carro, you are correct. The word ends with an O, so therefore it must be masculine. Blank tarea. Blank tarea. Take a moment. You should have gotten la tarea. Why? Tarea ends with an A, or in the Spanish alphabet, an A. So therefore it has to be feminine. Blank cabeza. Blank cabeza. Take a moment. You should have gotten la cabeza. Once again, cabeza ends with an A, so therefore it must be feminine. Blank piedras. Blank piedras. Take a moment. You should have gotten las piedras. Las piedras. Why? Because it ends with AS. The S at the end is what makes it plural. I should have mentioned that before. The S is what makes it plural, and it has an A before that S. Therefore, it must be las. Blank hombros. Blank hombros. Take a moment. Did you get los hombros? If so, tú tienes razón. You're correct. Why? Because hombros ends with an OS, the S meaning that it has to be plural. And because there's an O before that S, it must be masculine. So los hombros must work. Let's do one more. Blank cuadernos. Blank cuadernos. Take a moment. You should have gotten los cuadernos. Los cuadernos. Why? Well, it ends with an S, so it's going to have to be plural, and there's an O before it, so that means it must be masculine. Okay. Now let's take a look at some indefinite articles using our rules and what we know. Blank carro. Blank carro. Take a moment. You should have gotten un carro, a car. Un carro. It ends with an O, so it must be masculine. And if it's an indefinite article, it must be un. Blank lámpara. Blank lámpara. Take a moment. You should have gotten una lámpara. Una lámpara. 3. Blank cabeza. Blank cabeza. Take a moment. You should have gotten una cabeza. Una cabeza. Ends with an A, so it must be feminine. Blank piedras. Blank piedras. Take a moment. You should have gotten unas piedras. Ends with an AS. The S meaning it's plural. And the A meaning it has to be feminine. Number 5. Número 5. Blank hombros. Blank hombros. Take a moment. You should have gotten unos hombros. Unos hombros. Ends with an S, so it must be plural. And there's an O before that S, which makes it masculine. Finally, blank cuadernos. Blank cuadernos. Take a moment. You should have gotten unos cuadernos. Unos cuadernos. Ends with an S, so it makes it be plural. And then it has an O before that S, so it must be masculine. If you look at the plural sides, you can look here and see AS for piedras, AS for unas. Same thing here. If you look at hombros, ends with an OS, and then unos also ends with an OS. Just a little hint. Now you might be thinking something. There are words that don't end with O or A. For example, la mente, that is the mind. That ends with an E, un E. Alright, I just told you it. I said la mente, so I already know that it's feminine. But how did I know that? Well, there's two ways you can figure out the gender of a noun if it doesn't end with an O or an A. You can always just look up the word in the dictionary. There's nothing wrong with that. And you can always look for what it tells you what the definite article is, if it's el or la. The other thing you can also do is common sense. For example, now that can't work for every word, but for example, la mujer. Alright, if you know that mujer means woman, it's evidence that it must be then la mujer because it's feminine, right? Same thing for the man. El hombre. Yes, it ends with an E, but if you know that hombre means man, it would make sense that it has to be a masculine word, and therefore you'd figure out el. If it's not as common, though, you should use number one. Alright, you're going to have to do some investigating and see what you can find. You might end up with you might end up not having a word that is commonsensical, so to speak, or a word that wouldn't you wouldn't be able to tell the gender by what the translation is. So those are your two options. That is all for definite and indefinite articles. Gracias por ver este video. Si hay preguntas, if there are any questions, dudas, doubts, comentarios, déjenme saber abajo en los comentarios. Let me know below in the comment section. If you need to go over anything, I'm more than happy to make a video on something I need to go over. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe. And gracias por ver. Thank you for watching. Hasta luego. Gracias.